Hi guys, we can give 2 more minutes before we officially start. Okay, I hope we can start now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining and welcome to our webinar on navigating Google Consent Mode version 2. How should I prepare? I'm Chethana, Associate Product Manager at CookieYes, and I'm truly excited to guiding you through the session as your host. And I welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Audrey Hursh, who is the Global Product Lead for User and Regulatory at Google. We are truly delighted to have you here with us today as we explore the topic of Google Consent Mode version 2, which represents a substantial change in how user data is managed within the Google ecosystem. Welcome, Audrey. So let's jump right in. To start off, I'll give a brief overview of the topic. Google Consent Mode, or GCM, is a feature that enables websites to communicate their visitors' cookie consent status to Google. So, depending on the choices made by your website visitors regarding their preferences on your cookie banner, Google tags will adjust their behavior to respect these preferences. So additionally, with Google Consent Mode, Google allows you to model the behavior of all users who have not provided consent. In simpler terms, it enables the collection of anonymized metrics while respecting user consent choices as European data privacy laws like the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, require. And as you all may already know, consent mode is not something new to us. Its first version was actually introduced back in 2020. However, there's been a renewed buzz around it lately because Google has updated it to a new version, consent mode version 2. And starting from March 2024, Google is requiring all websites with visitors from the European Economic Area and the United Kingdom to adopt consent mode version 2. Suddenly, there's quite a bit happening around this. So in this session, we'll explore how consent mode works, how the new version of consent mode differs, then the reasons behind Google's enforcement, and finally, we'll guide you through how you can implement Google Consent Mode version 2 using the CookieYes CMP. So over to you, Audrey. We are all ears as we eagerly await your perspectives on this topic.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. Great, thank you.
Oh no. Okay, is it still echoing? I think that's
all good now. Please go ahead.
Sorry about that. Okay, great. So we're at the precipice of a big year in digital advertising. We're actually getting to be halfway through this year, which is it's crazy to me to even think about. Of course, we all know advances in AI are unlocking new capabilities and opportunities for marketers, just as legacy technologies like third-party cookies and mobile device identifiers are beginning to go away. And consumers are asking for more transparency and greater control over how their data is being used. I understand that this puts us all in kind of an uncomfortable position. We're being asked to deliver the same, if not better, results in advertising with additional pressures. So to help you succeed in the new landscape, you need durable advertising solutions and services that can deliver stronger growth, continued more exciting creative, of course, and most importantly, accurate measurement while still protecting user privacy. Can move on to the next slide. Key to taking advantage of this opportunity is really having high quality consented data. Consent has really been kind of the root of GDPR. And we want to make sure that you're employing durable measurement and audience solutions while you're doing that. Used together, these components will not only help you make decisions with confidence, but they're also the fuel that powers AI to deliver long-term performance for your business. Investing in the right strategy now will make it easier to drive growth and sharpen your competitive edge. Next slide. And the future, of course, is consented data. It's first party and it is modeled. Evaluating the impact of your marketing spend begins and ends with the accuracy of this data. Without robust data and measurement and solutions in place, it's like you're setting out on a journey without a GPS. You might be moving, but it's really hard to actually reach that destination. You don't have clear direction. So moving on to clear drivers for change. The first really being regulation. So each I think it's like 70% now, probably more, honestly, since this was created, of our world's population is under some sort of modern privacy regulation. And what's really driving that is the modern end user. So the user is more sophisticated, they understand how the digital economy works, and they have higher expectations for privacy. They want to be given choices, control, and of course have better transparency as they continue to engage with us online. Finally, with our technology changes driven by the large platform changes and innovations in AI. Next, we have more changes on the horizon. So major changes are coming for how businesses can actually capture and use data for marketing. This really includes what we're here to talk about today, Google product changes. These changes are driven by growing desire for transparency and choice from users and understanding how their data is used. But there are a multitude of regulations that are affecting our advertising ecosystem globally. In addition to regulations, as we all know, there's major platform changes coming. We know what happened in 2021 and 2020 with Apple's ATT. And of course, even in light of last week's announcement, Google Chrome has begun the deprecation of third-party cookies and will begin to continue to phase those out. We all know what this means, and we really are at the point where we need to take action. 2024 is really an inflection point, right? We're asking marketers where your digital marketing and measurement will rapidly lose effectiveness. And if you don't take action, then you won't be able to engage with products and users in the same way that you have before. So in response to all these changes, we've made product upgrades throughout 2024 to continue to ensure these high standards of user consent. So steps that you should have taken, we can continue on to the next slide. Steps that you should have taken before March 6th, but if you haven't, then you should take now, today, are really to implement consent mode. So we want to ensure that you're collecting valid consent for European users first and foremost. This isn't a new requirement. We've had a policy in place that has required this since I think like 2017, maybe even earlier. The EU user consent policy has always asked our partners to have compliant consent banners, consent mechanisms in place. And what's new today is passing those validated consent signals to Google. So, or I guess better said, new as of March. We also encourage folks to migrate to Google Analytics 4. And from an apps perspective, make sure that you upgrade to the latest version of Google Ads APIs and SDKs to pass user consent signals to Google. Can move on to the next slide. Okay, so what does consent mode look like exactly? This is really the change here. So consent, you'll see this in your G tag, the changes. So we're moving from, and then version 1 to version 2, we can talk about it in a second, but this default stage will be set to denied automatically, and it is up to the user to make that direct change. You can move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is kind of why we're all here today, right? This is the nitty gritty. So from V1 to V2, what's changing is ad user data parameter and ads personalization. These parameters give a validated consent signal to Google and also allow our advertisers to continue to leverage ads personalization, given, of course, that user choice. These parameters are required today, just to be clear. Version 2 is a requirement as of March 6th. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit already. Upgrading to these Google Ads APIs, I think, is really important. We want to encourage everyone to migrate to Google Analytics 4 and leverage consent mode is kind of the root and basis of all of this. We talked a lot about March 6th and what happened then, but I think that we'll continue to talk about measurement features and functionalities and how those work as the year continues forward. Of course, audience and measurement are inherently linked. So if you maybe aren't using more advanced audience features, but you still want access to those robust conversion measurement insights, you'll need to leverage consent mode. Okay, moving forward. All right, so CookieYes. We recommend you use a Google partner consent management platform to simplify your consent work. This is really kind of the precipice for everything that we're talking about. Advertisers must continue to obtain and respect end users' consent, but we recommend using a CMP to effectively get and communicate end user choices. Partners like CookieYes can really assist you in implementing or upgrading your website and app consent banners. They'll support you in navigating these consent requirements. As mentioned, these aren't static requirements. As the years go on, consent requirements will change. It's more than just a one-time implementation. You really need a partner that's going to help support you through all of the changes that the industry is going through. And properly gathering and signaling end user consent is really critical to ensuring that you're respecting those end user choices and rooted in why we are bolstering that policy that I mentioned. So today, advertisers must adhere to the policy, but that enforcement and what that looks like is also going to continue to evolve, and it will really be your CMP partner that helps you understand those evolving requirements, not only from a regulatory perspective, but also from the kind of requirements that Google and other ad tech partners are putting on you. I think that's it for this slide.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'll pass it back.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for explaining things so well. It has truly shed light on this topic, and I believe it has enhanced our understanding of Google Consent Mode. So coming to the partnership between CookieYes and Google, CookieYes is an official Google certified CMP partner, and that implies we integrate seamlessly with the Google consent mode. When talking about a CMP, one aspect that may cause confusion for many of you is whether Google Consent Mode is a standalone solution for managing user consent or cookie compliance. So to clear up any such confusion, let me emphasize that Google Consent Mode is not designed to function independently for managing user consent. This implies that a GCM does not substitute the necessity for a CMP, a consent management platform. Rather, consent mode works hand in hand with a CMP to ensure that Google tags and scripts operate in accordance with the user's consent preferences. We have actually been collaborating with Google since 2023 to integrate version 2 into our platform. And as of December 2023, we are fully supporting GCM version 2. So with CookieYes platform that is trusted by around 1.5 million websites, you can now leverage consent mode version 2 to more effectively manage user consent across your Google tags. Okay, now let's explore how to enable GCM support on CookieYes. As you can see here, we have enabled GCM support on by default for all the users on our web application. So if you're an existing user, simply log into your CookieYes account and navigate to the advanced settings page, and you'll notice that we have enabled Google Consent Mode by default. So if you find this feature is not enabled on an older version of CookieYes, you can activate it by simply toggling the switch on in this page, and your changes will be saved automatically. So if you're a website owner or publisher who haven't implemented a cookie banner or utilized a consent management platform yet, better late than never, now is the perfect time to implement it. And when it comes to putting Google Consent Mode into action, there are two implementation methods that we'll discuss now. One is via Google Tag Manager GTM, and secondly, via a custom script. So to implement GCM with Google Tag Manager, you'll need to start by configuring Google Tag Manager for your website. Once the GTM is configured, you should be able to create a new tag and add the CookieYes tag template to your workspace. So before setting up Google Consent Mode using the CookieYes GTM template, remember this: if you have already added the CookieYes installation script to your website, make sure that you remove it before proceeding further. Let me emphasize again, you don't need to add the CookieYes installation script to your website's head tag if you are setting up your cookie banner using the CookieYes tag template in Google Tag Manager. So all these instructions, including the detailed steps involved in configuring Google Consent Mode version 2, are available in our documentation. And I'll be sharing the documentation links in the Zoom chat now. So these links also include other resources such as a video tutorial with step-by-step instructions on GCM implementation and a document that guides how to upgrade from Google Consent Mode version 1 to version 2. So for all website owners aiming to implement Google Consent Mode, you can refer to the appropriate documentation based on your specific needs, and then you can proceed with the GCM implementation accordingly. And don't worry, if you have any questions or doubts regarding the GCM implementation, you can simply drop an email to support@cookieyes.com, and we'll be supporting you with any queries you might have. So let's move on to the second method of Google Consent Mode implementation, which involves using a custom script. You can find the custom script in the documentation link we provided. All you need to do is copy this custom script and paste it above the GTM script and CookieYes script in your website source code. That's all. Okay, that almost concludes what we aim to cover in this webinar session. And I hope you have saved all the links that I've dropped into Zoom chat for your future reference. Now, moving on to the Q&A session. We have gathered the most frequently asked questions from our users about Google Consent Mode and its recent updates. And I'm confident Audrey can provide clarity on these matters. So the first question is, how can advertisers benefit from Google Consent Mode version 2?
In a couple of ways, I think first and foremost, consent mode really allows you to continue to gather robust insights about users with these constraints around consent. So depending on the on basic consent mode or advanced, you'll get a different level of insights and modeling for how users behave or may have behaved given their consent parameters. Of course, with our new changes as of March, really the main benefit is that you can continue to personalize your ads and gain robust measurement insights post March 6th. So that for me is number one. But of course, there's a lot of other capabilities that it gives you a visibility into that would have eventually degraded with user consent being at the forefront.
Okay. Going to the second one, is consent mode necessary if I'm not using Google Ads?
So consent mode is necessary from a Google perspective for all of our remarketing and personalized advertising capabilities beyond just Google Ads, of course, and of course with our measurement capabilities. So you will need consent mode if you're using any of those Google products, whether they live within Google Ads or not. And then I would leave it kind of up to you and your DPO to decide if consent mode is necessary beyond your use of Google Ads enabled audience personalization features.
Well, the third question, should I be concerned about consent mode even if I don't market to the European Union or EEA, the European Economic Area?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. It really depends on kind of what the consent standards are in other regulatory environments, and what you as an advertiser and what your DPO has decided in partnership with you on what you want, how you want to serve consent banners or other types of consent mechanisms in those markets. I would say generally that's up to you. If you're blocking tags, consent tags in other jurisdictions, you might want to consider using consent mode, but Google doesn't have a requirement outside of the EEA to use consent mode. So really, really up to our partners. I think it's an important decision to make. I wouldn't encourage like a passive global implementation of consent mode for jurisdictions that it's not required. We do have region level controls, so it's certainly worth a look to see if it's valuable for you in other places.
Got it. And finally, how can I verify if Google Consent Mode is properly implemented and working on my website?
So this is something I would say CookieYes can help you with, or your other CMP. We're also we've started to implement more diagnostics tools directly in the UI, so you'll be able to better understand if you are appropriately implementing consent mode. So I can make sure that CookieYes has those materials to share as well. But I would always go to your partner CMP to understand your implementation.
Okay, great. And with that, we conclude. Thank you all
Thank you.
for joining us today for this webinar. We believe that this session has given you a comprehensive understanding of how to successfully implement and utilize Google Consent Mode in conjunction with CookieYes to better manage your user consents. So on behalf of our entire team, I extend our deep appreciation to Audrey Hursh for her time and for being part of this webinar and bringing valuable insights to our discussion. Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks, everyone.
So if there's anything else you would like to ask, or if you require further assistance in implementing Google Consent Mode version 2 with CookieYes, please reach out to us. Our support team is truly dedicated to helping you address any challenges you may face throughout the journey. So time to wrap things up. Thanks again, everyone, and bye-bye.